What up, dudes, and welcome back to the Video Game Sidequest segment of our podcast where we take a subject that may not have been big enough to cover in a whole episode, or we take one of your questions and we talk about it here as a sort of way to give back to our generous patrons who kept us going for so long.
And today's episode is a deep dive, intimate, I would say maybe conversation on the contents of our bowels.
Hmm. Because you were
Everybody's here
really
for it.
curious. The Q&A was all over. There's like, hey man, what color, what consistency.
Yeah,
Um,
well, a lot of people were maybe thinking like, what kind of butt plug? Me personally, I
we're
like a
so
foxtail.
highbrow here, so highbrow.
um, no, of course we're going to talk about some Game Award shit because it was weird this year. So,
There was
also,
some weirdness.
okay, what do you? There was a lot of weird moments, but not even weird. Death Stranding 2 had a trailer where the whole time I'm watching it, and maybe it's because I didn't play the first game, but I just kept wondering what the fuck is that game even about? Like, what do you do in that
Well,
game?
there's a
Just like
theory.
the first one where you're just like, what the fuck?
Well, there's a theory that it's not Death Stranding 2 because it is only ever referred to as DS2. There's a big Kojima's pulling the rug out from under you. Like it's not actually a sequel to Death. It's just called DS2, and that actually means something else. Even though it has Norman Reedus Petus, in there.
Norman Reedus and Leah Sado and, you know,
Right. Which I'm kind of like,
the
well,
same world and the
I feel
baby
like
thing.
it probably is a sequel, but he's actually going to try to pull some weird. It's not really like it's an alternate reality or
This is
some.
Norman Reedus's clone. He grew out of that baby Norman Reedus carried around.
I
This
mean,
is the Reedus fetus.
yeah, or the Reedus fetus. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it is for all intents and purposes. It's a big Sony project. It's got the baby shit. It's got BB, and all that other shit. I mean, it is. It's just Stranding too. I just thought it
And
was
don't get
funny
me
how
wrong, I love Leah Sado.
everyone is just assuming Kojima is going to pull some shit since Metal Gear Solid 2. So now it's just kind of like this isn't really Death Stranding 2. It's DS2. It's actually going to be something different. Um,
Dark Star 2.
Dark Star 2.
It takes place as a prologue.
Well, there
This
you
is
go. Well,
before.
I mean, I'm surprised you let in with that, but no, I kind of wanted to do this side quest as a sort of like a little bit because like Healy was just like he always is like, hey, give me honest feedback, about the show and what you like, what you didn't like, what you changed, yada yada yada. So I thought, hey, let's do it. Let's
Give him
let's
some
talk.
honest feedback.
Let's talk about honest feedback with the show. It was supposed to be a shorter show.
Yeah.
Supposed to be, and
Didn't
then
seem
and then
like
then
it.
they gave Christopher Judge the award. Um, so
Okay, look, I thought he was high or drunk or both. He just came off like
he
he
was
was like,
very emotional. He's
yeah,
emotional.
he just, he seemed like he was like, well, you've never been in this state, but for everybody out there who's ever been like, you hit that buzz in a when you're drunk, where you're just like you're rambling, but it seems coherent to you, but you're just like building.
You feel like you're having your Mr. Smith goes to Washington moment.
Yes, like you're really hitting the stride here, but to like everybody else, it's just this long pauses.
Yeah. Not him. I mean, like drunk people, like being
Yeah,
like,
no, you're just like staring off into space for a minute, and then you're continuing on, like that kind of shit. But I did think he was drunk. But that being said, gotta love a man who starts by thanking his mama. He's still good in my book.
before we even got to him, I gotta say, like, okay, I'm happy that there wasn't many obvious celebrity shill plugins. Oh, but they were there.
There was a lot of celebrity show play.
But I mean, most I'm talking about like the
Fucking Al
band.
Pacino.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going first. It started with Al Pacino coming out there and being like, "I'm a gold. My kids played Nintendo. I can't read the teleprompter."
Yeah.
And immediately, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, Al Pacino's not in any video game to my knowledge.
What the fuck?
Like he signed off on a sound alike for Scarface back when Radical made that for THQ. So I'm like, why is he here? Because he's giving the presenter award. The actor, the actor's actor is giving an acting award to the actor in a video game.
Look, Al Pacino, great
Yeah,
on screen, but even he seemed bemused as to why the fuck they
yeah,
got him
he
to do
comes
this
out and
thing.
he's like, I almost appreciate his honesty. How Dunkachino over here even knows, like, why am I here?
You're
Like,
right. He was just like, I don't know why I'm here. Yeah, no,
um, it's still dripping with the whole. Okay, here's an honest criticism. Game Awards is still dripping with the whole fucking stench of we want to be Hollywood, and it's like you're the Game Awards. Quit fucking worrying about being Hollywood. Yes, I know Daddy, got all his money in IMAX, but you don't help your cause about how you're trying to basically forward the legitimacy of gaming by constantly fawning over TV film. Let's get the great TV film actor Al Pacino to come out and give an award for performance, even though he has nothing to fucking do with video games. He is not in any way,
wow.
shape, or form a major part of the development of them. He isn't part of any major title. He is not some sort of like super investor or anything. Not that you'd want a super investor out there or anything, but point is, he's there because he's a big I'm sorry, not TV, big film star.
They're going for that legitimacy that Hollywood has
You're right, but it's like you're
as
going
an
for
art form.
legitimacy for a completely different industry. It's like
No,
we're
right.
gaming, we should be taken seriously. Here's a film actor to give an award for acting here because like it's more legitimate to have Al Pacino than say a famous game actor come out, right? Someone who's like, you know, from any major game, like someone like David Hayter, who is Hollywood as well, but like giving that award,
Or Andy Serkis.
or Andy Serkis, who's like, he's been involved heavily in games like Enslaved and shit. So like,
And also pioneered a lot of that mocap acting that is now the
right,
standard.
like he
Like,
would have way more reason to be there than Al Pacino.
I was
So
actually this is a side rant that I knew you would appreciate because I got so angry that people don't seem to know who Andy Serkis is. The only reason Andy Serkis never exploded in Hollywood is because he happened to like acting in CGI.
yeah.
Built like a truck, highly charismatic even when playing a bad guy, super talented actor, super great range of emotions. Like had he not started as Golem, had he instead played one of the actors, if he would have played fucking Bilbo Baggins, he'd been huge. And he already is arguably huge, but like he never got like leading man status, just him as a recognizable
Hmm.
face. Like people don't realize he's Caesar in, the War for the
Planet of
Planet of
the
the
Apes.
Apes.
Yeah,
Um and I just had this like mild rant because he's so good in Andor.
yeah.
And like I saw these tweets where people were all like, "Oh man, Golem's got acting chops." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, that's why they got him to play Golem. I was like, "What the fuck?" It's Andy fucking Circus.
Do you think they just? Oh my god, yeah.
Love him.
But yeah, I think Al Pacino coming out, and then like there was that whole bit with Michael Madsen where he had like two goons with him,
Right.
and then they're actually acting, and Michael Madsen's and they're like, "Where's the cocktail bar? Where's Quentin? What's my line? What am I doing?"
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the celebrities were drunk and or didn't actually respect the games.
Yeah, well,
Like,
they barely know what's going on there. Like, and the other thing too is that like Al Pacino, Michael Madsen, they're fucking old. Like, to them, like a video game is still Pong in their minds.
right.
Um, so and then there's just more shit with Ryan Johnson and Daniel Craig sitting there. Hey, we got a big Netflix movie coming out. We're giving an award for something. What do we? It's like if the presenter has no fucking relevance, and I love you, Animal, but honestly, like
What the fuck?
the beaker skit was way better years ago. But it's like I love you, Animal, but like why the fuck are you giving an award for
Right.
music? What, because you drummed in the Muppets 50 years ago? Like I love Animal, but it's like it
They brought out Pedro Pascal, and I'm blanking on her name, but she's a wonderful actor too.
that made sense because they're in fucking Last of Us coming out in a month,
Right,
right? So I'm like,
and
okay, cool. They're these people who are playing game characters in a game adaptation are coming out to give an award.
right,
Makes
and
sense.
that's cool. I'm not. It's just weird that they then also brought out, Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. Yeah, I'm blanking
There
on
were
her.
four.
Yeah, there was 4 people, but it was the Joel and Ellie from the games and the Joel and Ellie from the show,
From
and
yeah,
they all presented that, and it's just like, I mean, Troy Baker, and I know that I just blanked on her name, but
Birch.
I don't know. She's really wonderful though, and she's done like a ton of things, and she's in the really good D&D show
Hmm.
based off of um the like Matt Mercer. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm blanking on
critical role or
Critical. Yeah,
whatever.
Critical Role. Isn't she in?
Oh,
I think she's in Critical Role
yeah, I
too.
believe so. I don't know.
Yeah. She's really charismatic. She plays Ellie in The Last of Us. But it was sort of weird how they felt like they were jammed into it, all 4 of them
Yeah.
all together. And it's just like that. Now, granted, I don't know, with controversy, maybe they wanted to promote the new Last of Us, but also get through it fast. I don't know. Well, but Troy Baker's one of the biggest fucking voice
Hmm.
actors in the industry. Also had no idea that's what he looked like.
But I mean, like he could have come
Like,
out there and it could have just been Troy
could have
Baker
just been
getting that
him.
award
Yeah,
himself. Like it could have easily just been him.
easily. I also think Pedro Pascal had no fucking idea what was going on.
He
Like,
probably doesn't.
dude's super charismatic, love the dude, but he clearly, I don't think he gave a shit. The younger actress who's from like Game of Thrones and playing Ellie in the show now,
Hmm.
uh, she seemed more like, well, she seemed nervous, but she seemed like down with what she was doing.
She's
Like she
probably.
seemed
I'm sure
enthusiastic.
she's actually seen the game,
Yeah, she's
but I
probably
don't
played
think
the game. Yeah.
probably played the game. Pedro Pascal has probably not.
He's probably watched a few cutscenes like I fucking get it. I can do it. Sad dad? Yeah, I got
So I
it.
think kind of like right away, if I'm gonna, we're gonna level like a little honest criticism here. Drop the celebrity presenters. Like it doesn't do anything for the show. It almost always comes out as awkward. Like again, I don't want to mean to shit on Animal necessarily because Animal was actually funny, especially because the guy playing Animal was making jokes like, "Hey, he was getting Animal to like, hey, yell at Kojima, let me be in your game." Stuff like that. Talking about Elden Ring. Joking about Millennia, stuff like that. So it's like, okay,
Mhm.
that's cool and that's fun. But I'm like, Animal could be better used than than presenting an award because Muppets are great, but like when you have someone like Animal like giving an award, it almost is like, yay, it's this fun award. The Muppets gonna give it away. What was it for? Who fucking cares?
Yeah, it delegitimizes. I do think
So
there's
I'm
something
like,
to be
I
said.
don't get rid of the Muppets, but I think they should be used more. Like Beaker and the scientist, can't remember his name. Looks like a P, um,
Right.
with glasses. Um, yeah, better uses of Muppets than coming out saying a couple gaming related jokes and then like rattling off an award. So I
Right.
would just, but otherwise, keep the Muppets, but like you do not. I mean, Michael Madsen actually had a game, so I know people are gonna. Anyone listening might be like, "Hey, but Michael Madsen is in an upcoming game. That's why he's there presenting the award." Kind of true. Yes, I get that, but Jesus Christ, he had no idea where the fuck he was.
He sure seemed like it. He sure seemed like he had no idea. I do think that, honest feedback, Keeley is. I see what he's attempting to do. He's trying to make the Game Awards synonymous with Hollywood Awards season.
Hmm.
And I think, in a way, what maybe not his direct goal, but he's trying to make it gain the attention of the traditional trades. He's trying to
Yeah.
make, he's trying to legitimize, um, game development and video games in the eyes of the old guard entertainment industry.
Hmm.
Uh, you could say that it's for his own benefit too, because he likes and wants to rub shoulders with those celebrities and with those old guard people. Maybe that's
Yeah.
true. The benefit is that it will get more acknowledgement as actual art, which doesn't necessarily matter to us as uh, people who want to play games. But I think when you attract artists, like legitimate, like, you make it a prestigious pursuit as an art.
Hmm.
Um, I do think there is something to be said about you will get more investment, more, um, you'll get more auteurs in
Yeah.
gaming. And there's not a lot of auteurs. You can name Kojima, you can name, Miyamoto, kind of an auteur, but I'd say he's more of a company man than an auteur. Like, you don't necessarily know it's a Miyamoto game just by playing the game, right? But
Right.
it's a Kojima game the moment you play a Kojima game. You're like, this is fucking weird. And you're like, yeah, great. Um, but I do think there's an attraction there that happens when you get the same prestige. Now, it should be said that the video game industry churns out money like it's a fucking printer and dwarfs Hollywood, uh, the traditional entertainment industry. Video
Right.
games absolutely crush them in that regard. But they do still have that nouveau riche, uh, status. They don't have that
Yeah.
same like artist.
And I think,
And I do think he is legitimizing them in those people's eyes, if that makes sense. Like, he'll get
yeah.
more attention from
I just
them.
I think because I think he's on the right track now for pacing and timing. Granted, we don't know how long someone's going to talk when they accept an award, but like I think the flow of the show was actually good this time,
Hmm.
and I think honestly, having less trailers and more just sort of like, there's some we just more big announcements, more big things, shorter focus time frame. I actually think that was a good thing.
Right.
But again, like I think you need to get more people like Reggie, like Phil, um, get someone like Shu Yoshida, even though he's more involved in the indie scene for PlayStation
Yeah,
now.
get big name directors, big name executives from gaming.
Yeah,
Um, you know, Absolutely get the faces of gaming to grow. I mean, why in the fuck? Uh, if you had the choice between Reggie and Al Pacino, I understand the temptation to go for Al Pacino because one, he's supposed to be a trip, like he's
yeah,
supposed to be a great time, uh, and it's Al fucking Pacino. But Reggie is more meaningful to gaming over the last 20 years than Al Pacino is ever going to be to gaming. Period.
yeah. And Reggie did present like one award. I forget which director. Reggie did the director award, but it was like it felt you might have forgotten it because it went off smoothly.
Right.
Because Reggie comes out, talks about the importance of directing, reads the names, gives the award out. Al Pacino comes out there and he looks like your fucking grandfather got lost at the farmer's market. So,
He didn't look that bad. He just looked like he didn't really understand the audience.
well, and he's sitting there like trying to like read, the whole time he's just sitting there trying to read the teleprompter. And you know that they basically widened it and which made it go slower.
Right.
Like it was just kind of like why did we bring like
Well,
it was kind of one of those things where it's like this is the part where like okay, just saying you had Al Pacino presenting at your show doesn't really. The only thing he's bringing is awkwardness. He's not bringing the legitimacy. I think you might think he's bringing. He's just making it awkward.
I think I would have. I mean, obviously he's passed away and stuff. And one cool part was the Kevin Conroy um announcement
Yeah,
and stuff. Um, but shit like that, like prominent voice actors who are also voice actors in um, you know,
yeah.
other media, Kevin Conroy coming to play Batman again. Like, had Kevin Conroy been alive, having him be there as a presenter would have been really fucking cool.
Having him being the
Mark
presenter for
Hamill,
or
obviously going to
Mark
be great.
Hamill, like he's movie and games. Like if Mark Hamill came out there and gave the award for performance first instead of Al Pacino, I think it would have been way more smoother, been way more memorable.
And it would have went
Um,
over really well. like just in
Yeah.
general.
And
Yeah,
if and really, if you really want to get a celebrity out there, get the gamer celebrities. And there's plenty of gamer celebrities. Jack Black, he's presented before, but it's like you could get people like Jack Black or Seth Rogen. I mean, you
Ice
could,
T.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes, yeah. Ice T
Um,
plays the fuck out of COD. Have him out there for any of
have
those
him out
types of
there.
games.
If you really wanted to flex your fucking Hollywood, dick around, get Steven Spielberg because he fucking loves video games. Can you
Yeah,
imagine
Steven
Steven
Spielberg.
Spielberg coming out there and giving the best director, award? Like, at least
I
he
mean, that would
is
be
a gamer, I mean, like, I prefer not, it goes a little against what I was saying before, but I'd really prefer not to have Hollywood celebrities
in
giving
general, right?
awards in general, especially when they're not really involved in anything. Like, I can give a little bit of a pass to Pedro Pascal because he's in the Last of Us show coming out like a month from
Right.
the award show. So there is that. I will say one thing I am happy about. I'm happy they ditched having a major pop rock band play a number for no reason other than to say you got a pop rock or rap band to play a big number at your show. And you can say, like, well, like Imagine Dragons last year, they had some tie-in to some live service game or something that was coming out or whatever. And it's like,
Arcane, weren't they tied into the Arcane show and they tied that into
was it Arcane? I don't know. Point is like they're not they're not musicians for gaming. They're Imagine Dragons, and then someone paid them a lot of money to do a song for a game. So like I'm very happy to see that you had the song from the end of God of War being played.
played
And then there
by
was another
big
song by
name
Diablo.
musical artist Hosier and Bear.
However, I feel it's a bit of a fucking slap in the face and a bit of a sort of like already showing your bias when it's the one game that's nominated for both Game of the Year and soundtrack. It's the only one that gets its own unique individual musical performance.
Right.
As if the other games didn't have songs in English sung by people who speak English, singing, end credit songs or mid game cutscene songs for other games nominated for Game of the Year and for Soundtrack of the Year. But no, you only had God of War play because it's God of War, because it's made in Santa Monica, and because Bear McCreary, believe, is an LA local. So it's like, oh, it was easy and simple to reach out. So I'm going to get this.
Right.
But it also kind of, to me, came off as striking as like, we've already given the fucking award away for Soundtrack of the Year because he's the only one who gets a fucking musical number. Except we got a musical number for Diablo 4. A game that's not out, not obviously can't be
Right.
nominated, but it's not. And here's the thing about
What
that.
did Halsey do? I didn't watch the Halsey music number. Didn't she do something?
I don't
She's a big
believe
pop artist.
I don't there was two musical numbers. There was Diablo 4,
Saw something about it.
and then there was God of War Ragnarok, and then there was the medley for the game of the year.
Oh yeah, it was Halsey that performs the Lilith from Diablo 4. That's
Oh,
what
was
Halsey
she
did.
was she the goth Betty Boop?
Yes.
Okay. Um
How dare
it's
you?
whatever.
I didn't
Why
watch
are
that musical
okay?
number.
To me, it strikes me as really tone deaf. Like, here's some honest criticism of Game Awards. It's really tone deaf to give a big fucking stage presence and time of your show to do a musical number for Diablo 4 when a year ago Geoff Keighley was pressured into creating a hotline number for people who are suffering workplace abuse and sexual assault primarily from fucking Blizzard.
Yeah. Yeah,
And a
that
year
is a good point.
later, it is getting the fucking star treatment, its own fucking giant musical number sequence for Diablo 4. And when it is the fucking literal reason for the Me Too movement of gaming. But here you are a year later, fucking like trotting out the money, from
Oh
Bobby and
yeah.
his boats, to play a Diablo 2 or sorry, Diablo 4 number. To me, that struck me as like incredibly disingenuous. I don't want to say unprofessional, but like sleazy.
I think we
And I'm not
always
talking
knew.
about her dress. I mean, like, actually, I mean, like, sleazy that you would do that. You would promote a game which you literally went on stage to make a hotline number for the people being abused who are working on it for.
I do think we always knew that there was going to be some sort of redemption arc. He was going to try and do some sort of redemption arc for Blizzard, but I don't think we really thought about the fact that he would just act like it never happened.
Well, I
Just
mean,
skip right over it.
that's the best way to deal with any controversy. Just pretend it didn't happen. Just
Yeah,
ignore
just
it.
move on. Yeah. Well,
Because
we
like it didn't go away. Like have you noticed any fucking arrests? Has anyone been fired? Really? Like there's been some people
no,
that
and
have
there was
maybe
another
resigned.
controversy too on top of it, right? There was another one at Blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
like
your two musical performances are gaming related. Great. Why are you giving coverage and prestige to this game, this company of all companies and games? It's as tone deaf as when after you fucking on stage announced last year that hey, here's the number, we're setting up an abuse hotline number. Here's the next game from David Cage.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, do you really like? Do you want people to think you give a shit about this at all?
Yeah, I don't really know. Keeley has always struck me as a person who wants to be in the elite crowd.
And he kind of is. He is in the gaming elite crowd, really, at this point. But
Yeah, that's true.
it's you can't be for the betterment of the workplace environment in the game industry, and at the same time, giving a platform and promoting the shit out of the biggest fucking known abusers.
No, that's true. Yeah, and I didn't even think about it at the time.
I don't think anyone did. Well, not no one, but I don't think a lot of people did. But it just struck me because I'm like, okay, so we had a game coming forward that's going to, but it's a Blizzard game. And then only Bear McCreary got to play a game. He's the only game nominated there that year that got to play its own segment at all. And here's and for me, like the other real part that sort of drives me nuts is that I know, and this is something Keeley can't control. He has no control over. There's really nothing he can do about this. But it's the fact that I know for a fact, for a complete 100% fact, the judges of his jury did not play every game nominated for game of the year, let alone soundtrack or what, action, strategy, etc. These were any game that wasn't God of War and Elden Ring, most of these outlets did not play the rest of the game of the year. Maybe they played Stray, maybe, or
Really?
Horizon, or they maybe dabbled in Horizon a little bit. But I know for 100% fact that the juries, the outlets on his jury, did not play all the games nominated for Game of the Year. They were voting basically on the assumption like, I loved God of War. I'm going for that.
Hmm.
And you might say it's sour grapes because of who I am and what I'm always championing. But I'm not gonna, and because a lot of people say, "Oh, you're just bitter that Xenoblade didn't win or didn't win soundtrack." And I will not say one negative fucking thing about Bear McCreary or his work on that game because it is a good soundtrack. But
Yeah.
I know for a fucking fact, most of that jury did not listen to the soundtrack of any of the other games. There, they heard Elden Ring and God of War for the most part. I
And
know
so
that.
and so they were just like God of War. God of
I
War
know
was
that
good.
for a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, would I say Bear McCreary doesn't? I mean, Bear McCreary deserves the recognition and the praise. He didn't deserve the award specifically for this year for that game against the other game. But I don't have a problem with someone that seems like a really cool dude like that winning the award. It's like, yeah, he's a cool guy. He worked really hard. He did a great job. It's not that's not even the bummer part. The bummer part is just the fact that most of the jury is not playing all the games nominated. And then there's the other aspect of like you have a whole category for games for change, which if that is such an important thing, like, oh, here's games that are doing an absolute good for the world. Why are they subsidized into their own separate category? How come none of those games are up for game of the year if they're
Right.
so important? Oh, they're important, but they're not God of
But they're
War.
little.
But they're little.
Yeah.
It feels patronizing to have that award when you really sit down and think about it. And I doubt very much many of the jury played all of those games for change in the games for change category at all. I
Yeah.
doubt it very, very much. I just know for a fact
If
when it
any.
comes, yeah, if any, I just know for a fact when it comes to the game of the year and for some of the other like soundtrack, I know for a fact they didn't listen to all of them. They didn't play all the
Mhm.
games, which I think ultimately brings me to my final point, which is you can Joseph Ferris can sit there and feel himself forever, and because he's the fuck the Oscars guy. But here's the reality: the Game Awards is just the Oscars now,
Yeah, that's what it wants to be.
and it's what it wants to be, and it's suffering the same fate that the Oscars suffer now, and that is, and I know this because I used to live next to a fucking Academy voter. They don't watch all the movies.
Right, yeah, they get their kids to watch some of them and tell them if it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that the Academy voters do not watch all the films nominated. They'll have all of them sent to them. They do not watch all of them. So you are not getting an honest vote from a jury pool that watched everything nominated. And now I know for a fact that the Game Awards is doing the exact same thing. So you can say fuck the Oscars, but really at this point it just is the Oscars for
Oof.
for better and worse.
That's a solid ending point. As always, if you've got topics to suggest or you have questions and you want a side quest devoted to it, please hit us up in the comments on Patreon or in YouTube, or you can tweet at us or in the Discord. I saw we got a couple of suggestions there that we'll be looking at for future episodes. But as always, we will see you next time, dudes.
Later, dudes.